The advent of Portuguese in India. The Portuguese were the first European who discovered the sea route to India. The advent of the Portuguese, the seaborne trade between India and the West, was in the hands of the Arabs. The Portuguese not only asserted their naval superiority by overthrowing the Arabs, but also by conquering large territories in India. Gold, spices, and other riches were valuable in Europe. But they had to navigate long ways over sea and land to reach them in Asia. Europeans, during this time, were looking to find a faster way to reach India, by sailing around Africa. It was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor, who accomplished this task. By doing so, he helped to open a major trade route to Asia. Vasco da Gama was the son of a minor nobleman, who commanded the fortress at Sines, located on the coast of the Alentejo province, in southwestern Portugal. At the age of 28, was sent by the Portuguese king, Manuel I, to find a new trade route to India. He sailed from Lisbon in 1497 on a mission to reach India, and to open a sea route from Europe to the east. After sailing down the western coast of Africa, and rounding the Cape of Good Hope, his expedition made numerous stops in Africa, before reaching the trading post of Calicut. In 1498, Vasco da Gama reached Kapad near Calicut. The event was a turning point in the history of India, and marked the dawn of the modern era. He was received by the local ruler Zamorin, and given him special order to establish trade links. Though the local Hindu population of Calicut initially welcomed the arrival of the Portuguese sailors, tensions quickly flared after Vasco da Gama offered their ruler a collection of relatively cheap goods as an arrival gift. This conflict, along with hostility from Arab traders, led Da Gama to leave without concluding a treaty and return to Portugal. He returned with a vessel laden with huge amount of precious goods, which was sold in European market at 60 times the total cost of his trip. A much larger fleet, commanded by Pedro Alvarez Cabral, was dispatched to capitalize on Da Gama's discoveries, and to secure a trading post at Calicut. He then moved on to Cochin, where he established the first Portuguese trading post in India. Vasco da Gama received a hero's welcome back in Portugal, and was sent on a second expedition to India, in 1502. In 1502 Vasco da Gama came back and set up a trading factory in Cananore, during which he brutally clashed with Arab traders in the region, and used force to reach an agreement with Calicut's ruler. For these brutal demonstrations of power, Da Gama was vilified throughout India and the region. Francisco da Almeida was chosen as the first Viceroy of Portuguese India, on March 25, 1505. On his arrival in India, he established his base at Cochin, and with his son Lorenzo, explored the Malabar coast and the island of Sri Lanka. During the next few years, the Portuguese concentrated their trade activities in Goa, and carried on extensive trade with the neighboring kingdoms. He entered into war with the Arabs over trade, and defeated their combined navy, off due in February 1509. Almeida at first refused to yield his power to Alfonso da Albuquerque, and had Albuquerque imprisoned in 1509, but he later gave him command. On his way home to Portugal, Almeida was killed near the Cape of Good Hope. In 1509, Alfonso da Albuquerque was chosen as the second governor of the Portuguese possessions in India. He was considered as the real founder of Portuguese power in India. Albuquerque defeated the Bijapur sultans, on behalf of a local sovereign Timaya, leading to the establishment of a permanent settlement, in Velagoa. The southern province, also known simply as Goa, served as the headquarters of Portuguese India, and seat of the Portuguese Viceroy, who governed the Portuguese possessions in Asia. The expansion of the Portuguese in India was not at all smooth, and they had to face at least two rivals. In the first instance, the Dutch East India Company put a check on the maritime trade of the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean. On the mainland, the rising Marathas stood in the way of the Portuguese expansion. The arrival of the British also served as a check on the expansion of the Portuguese influence. In addition to these factors, the Portuguese failed to win the sympathy of the Indian people, due to their over-enthusiasm for the cause of Christianity. As a result, ultimately the Portuguese power declined in India,